The man you are seeing in front of you has a bachelor's degree in computer engineering and a master's degree in electrical engineering. His name is Davis. He is a programming genius and the creator of TempleOS, the operating system that he claims he was ordered by God to create as a successor to the Second Temple. Davis wrote 121,000 lines of code to finish the development of his OS. Davis was going to be the next Steve Jobs, but his story ended in a tragic way. Terrence Andrew Davis, born on December 15, 1969, in West Allis, showed an early interest in technology. In his teenage years, he learned assembly language on a Commodore 64, a popular home computer in the 1980s. This self-taught exploration of low-level programming would lay the foundation for his future work in computer engineering and programming. His curiosity about how computers worked at the hardware level fueled his passion for coding and led him to study more advanced topics in computer science and engineering. Davis went on to earn a bachelor's degree in computer engineering and a master's degree in electrical engineering from Arizona State University. During his college years, he gained a deeper understanding of both hardware and software, which would later become integral to his career. Despite being academically successful, Davis's mental health struggles began to emerge in his late 20s. In 1996, Davis started experiencing manic episodes, which were later diagnosed as symptoms of bipolar disorder and eventually schizophrenia. His mental health issues became more pronounced over time, and his ability to maintain stable employment was affected. He had worked at Ticketmaster as a programmer for VX machines, but by the late 1990s, Davis's mental health began to interfere with his professional life. He was eventually forced to leave his job and collect disability payments while living with his parents in Las Vegas. Davis' parents were worried and gave him a choice: take his medication or leave the house. Davis chose to leave and decided to live on his own. He became homeless and lived in his van for several years. Even though he was living in his van, he kept working on programming and continued making video blogs. Davis became entangled in delusions about space aliens and government agents, and he started seeing suited figures following him. He became paranoid, believing that he was being watched and followed. Amid this confusion, Davis began giving away large sums of money to charity, an act he had never done before. Davis fled his hometown, driving aimlessly for hundreds of miles south. His mind spiraled further, and he dismantled his car, convinced that it was being tracked. After wandering in a daze, he was picked up by a police officer but soon escaped, breaking his collarbone in the process. Davis's delusions intensified, and he ran from a hospital after interpreting an X-ray conversation as a sign of alien artifacts inside him. His subsequent attempts to carjack a truck and escape the authorities led to his arrest and hospitalization. Davis spent 2 weeks in a mental institution where his condition was further diagnosed as schizophrenia. Despite these episodes, Davis would later reflect on these moments with a mixture of regret and acceptance, acknowledging that while his actions appeared as signs of mental illness, in the early 2000s, Davis began working on what would become his life's most significant achievement, TempleOS. TempleOS was an operating system that Davis created from scratch over the course of a decade. Unlike any other operating system, TempleOS was based on his unique vision of a digital temple, a place where he could communicate directly with God. Davis wrote the system using his own programming language, Holy C, which was designed to be a bridge between C and C++. TempleOS had a retro feel, reminiscent of early DOS-based systems like the Commodore 64. It was built to be simple, without modern features like networking or internet support. The system's features, from its 640 by 480 resolution to its 16-color display, were also presented as divine instructions. Despite the unconventional and amateurish presentation of TempleOS, Davis garnered a small but devoted following. He spent much of his time online, showcasing his work and engaging in deep, often rambling conversations about technology and God. Davis believed he was the smartest programmer that ever lived, and while his online comments were often incomprehensible due to his schizophrenia, he nonetheless gained recognition in certain tech circles. Some saw his work as a unique form of outsider art, an operating system created by a mind that blended brilliance and madness. Davis's life became increasingly isolated as he distanced himself from society, retreating into his virtual world. His outbursts, controversial remarks, and use of offensive language made him a polarizing figure. He believed he was under constant surveillance by federal agents, especially the CIA, and his struggles with paranoia and delusion were well documented. Davis Davis's final months were a tragic and poignant end to a life marked by both brilliance and deep mental struggles. In the months leading up to his death, Davis experienced increasing isolation and instability. He stopped taking his medication, believing it hindered his creativity, particularly his ability to work on TempleOS, the operating system that consumed much of his life. His mental health deteriorated further, and he found himself homeless and incarcerated at various points. Despite the help of a few fans who brought him supplies, Davis declined their offers for shelter, choosing instead to continue his nomadic existence. After staying with his sister in Arizona, Davis traveled to California and then to Portland, Oregon in April 2018. It was during this time that local police were alerted to his potentially dangerous behavior, as Davis had expressed a willingness to kill if commanded by God. Authorities in Portland informed officials in the Dallas that Davis might be headed there, though no further complaints were received. In June 2018, Davis recorded his final video, which was uploaded just hours before his death. Sitting on a bench at the Dallas Wasco County Library, he explained that he had removed many of his past videos, stating he did not want to litter the internet. He also talked about learning how to purify himself, reflecting on his mental and spiritual journey. Toward the end of the video, Davis seemed to have a moment of reflection where he mused,
"Well, it's good to be king." Maybe. I think maybe I'm just like a little bizarre little person who walks back and forth. Whatever, you know. But
these words were some of his last, capturing a moment of self-awareness, confusion, and acceptance. On the evening of August 11, 2018, while walking along railroad tracks in the Dallas, Davis was struck and killed by a Union Pacific train. Investigators were unsure whether his death was a suicide or an accident. The train engineer believed it was a suicide, as Davis was walking with his back to the train but turned around just before the impact. The Dallas Chronicle later confirmed his identity after readers inquired whether the unnamed homeless man killed by the train was Davis. Davis's unique contributions to the world of technology, his creation of TempleOS, and his personal struggles with mental illness remain a lasting legacy that sparks both admiration and sorrow among those who followed his work.